Zelos Podcast is sponsored by Kinetic IQ, where intelligence meets motion. Kinetic IQ brings a biomechanics lab into the palm of your hand, letting you measure movement anytime, anywhere, with just an iPad or an iPhone, and no wearables required. I've been using Kinetic IQ's markerless motion capture in my own practice, and whether you're screening athletes, analyzing posture and gait mechanics, optimizing performance, or guiding return to play, it helps practitioners like us save time, capture more objective data, and make instant actionable decisions. So to learn more about how Kinetic IQ is shaping the future of intelligent movement, visit them at kineticiq.com. That's KINETIKIQ.com. You know, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have Metabolic Elite be one of the sponsors of the Zelos Podcast. You know what makes Metabolic Elite different is their commitment to real results. I've seen a lot of supplements and performance enhancement things over the years, but they pair clinical experience with innovation, like Lipitab, their proprietary solid-state liposomal delivery system. It's a chewable format which enhances absorption, like nutrients like BPC 157 and synapses. They're delivered more efficiently in the body, supporting recovery, focus, cognitive health. Their formulas go beyond the basics, solving performance health challenges at the system level. Every product is tested for quality, it's backed by research, and trusted by athletes and clinicians alike. So learn more at metabolicelite.co. And you can get 10% off all of Metabolic Elite products by entering the coupon code ZELOS, Z-E-L-O-S. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Zelos Podcast, the show that's all about the pros behind the pros in sports. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder. This week, my guest is Hannah Boyl. She is the sports performance dietitian for Sporting KC. That's right, Major League Soccer in Kansas City. Sporting KC, a thundering team, and maybe a few of them are going to be representing countries in the World Cup coming this summer. Speaking of this summer, be sure to check out Perform Better Summits. That's going to be Chicago in June, Long Beach, California in July, and Providence, Rhode Island in August. I'll be presenting in Chicago and Long Beach, and I'll be heading over to New Orleans for the NSCA National Conference. If you can't get to all of them, well, make sure you get to at least one. I'd love to see you there. And also check out my website, rockysnyder.com. We've got a couple new courses on there right now. One that just launched, it was the open and closed chain foot mobilization course. Learn how to get those little piggies moving to the best of your ability. Now, before we get underway with the conversation, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Rocky_Snyder. Click that damn subscribe button, you know the one, and enjoy the conversation. Well, Hannah, first off, thanks for putting out a little time and setting it aside to have a conversation with me. So welcome to the Zelos Podcast.
Thank you.
Now, you've been in the KC area for not too long. You were telling me before we hit the record button that you're in Houston, but how about giving the listening audience a little bit of an understanding of your career path? What got you into dietitian, nutrition, and so on? Well, like, did that start at a very early age, or how did it get going?
Actually, I went into my undergrad not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, but I was a very big fan of movement in general. So I decided that I was going to go for my exercise science degree and then potentially go into physical therapy. I was a dancer growing up, so I also thought about doing things with like dance therapy, things like that.
Yeah.
Got to my second to last semester of my senior year, and I had to take a nutrition course, a sports nutrition course for just what was required of the degree program. And a sports dietitian that came in from New York, she was teaching the course, and she was also doing a little bit with our athletes on site at the university. It was a small D3 university. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this. This is actually a job. I didn't know that existed. So I actually started volunteering with her at the university with the athletes there. And then I switched to nutrition, which made it so that I had to change from all those physics classes to chemistry classes in order to have all my prerequisites to apply to the master's program. So I got my master's degree in dietetics from Eastern Michigan and did a coordinated program there. So I did my internship at the same time as all of the coursework. So it wasn't really sports specific. I knew that I probably wanted to do something sports or activity related. So I knew there was going to be a little bit of more work behind that to get the experience that I needed. So I kind of started off and had a little bit of my own private practice on the side, worked with local gyms, local athletes that I knew just to get some experience, to have a little bit of a background in, to say that I had worked with athletes and get a feel for how that was different. Because in my day job, after I graduated, I was doing a lot of clinical work, like working in a hospital. I did a little bit of like outpatient with the diabetes program, but the sports world, especially in nutrition, was very hard to break into without having a specific internship experience.
Ah,
Yeah. So I kind of just volunteered, did presentations where I could to get that experience. And then that led me to, so I graduated with my master's in 2019. That's when I became a registered dietitian, is October of 2019. And then by summer of 2022, I applied for a residency program, a sports nutrition residency program in Houston. And luckily, I was accepted into that. And so July, August of 2022, I was able to start that with Memorial Hermann. It was a hospital system in Houston. So that was
so
kind of my step in the door.
I'm curious because for those that aren't watching the video format and listening to the audio, I detected this facial expression when you first talked about clinical work and like the health, the hospital setting, and that you really had to get your foot in the door with sports nutrition dietitian. It and I just got to ask. I don't know. I get a sense that, yeah, it's really hard working with people that are not dedicated to performance, and
Yes.
therefore, you mentioned diabetes, and like it's kind of, we'll call it another family disease in a way. It's just
Mhm.
something that's rampant, and it's so. Did you feel like you couldn't be effective, or what was it? Because there was
Yeah,
something there.
yeah. It's weird because the hospital clinical space is fast paced in a different way than sports nutrition is. It's fast paced in the sense that they want you to see 13 to 14 patients a day, like if you're working in an acute care setting. And all that really is like going into their, like, if you get a referral for education, you go into their hospital room and give them education based on whatever they're in the hospital for. Half the time they think that you are the person that's coming to take their lunch order, or they're going to complain to you about the food. And I was like, I have nothing to do with the food, I'm sorry. Or they're in the hospital, like they're sick, they just want to go home. Like the last thing that they want is someone talking to them about food, probably if they don't have an appetite, if they've been sick. So that was really hard. So I feel like it was just like I was just checking boxes. And the performance side of nutrition is so much more like meticulous than just your general nutrition. And don't get me wrong, with my athletes, like they have to have a good solid base before we make any like small adjustments. But the performance side is a bit more of a puzzle. It's a bit more like mental work on my end, but I can really see the results of that. And yes, the athletes are motivated. They are there, like this is their livelihood. Now, some athletes are more motivated than others, and I just changed my how I put out my energy accordingly. But yeah, there's a big difference in the, even like the way, like my day to day and the practice from the clinical setting to the sports setting.
Yeah, I totally get it, and that's exactly what the vibe I was receiving as you were telling me this is like you're working with top level professional athletes who are trying to eke out the last few percentages of improvement,
Yeah.
and they are going to listen. They are going to be so much more compliant than somebody who's come in and is on a lot of prescription medication in a hospital room that can't wait to get home, and you're going to come in and tell me how to eat. Like that's just going to go in one ear out the other. It's like And so superficially that you don't have enough time to really spend. So my hat's off to those that are trying to do that kind of environment, but I'm much more excited for you and the environment that you're in. So, okay, you do your stuff, you do your schooling. I don't mean to like stuff, but you follow
No,
this
yeah.
path down. How did you land with KC? How did you land with Sporting KC?
Yeah, so I was really fortunate in part of my residency program was to work with the Sporting Kansas, or I'm sorry, not Sporting, Houston Dynamo. So the MLS team in Houston. That was actually part of my residency program. I was there with them a few hours a week. And then over the course of my time there, it got more and more uh, in depth. And so by the time that so I started in August, by the time that we got into like January, February after preseason, I was doing a lot of the hands-on stuff with those athletes, so based on what we were able to do. So that residency program had me in the hospital setting, but in more of like an outpatient sports rehab type of setting. So I was still working with active people or athletes of different ages, high schools, the collegiate setting, and then also in the professional setting. So I could only give so much of my day to the professional soccer team. So we comes around May, and I'm starting to look at what potentially my life looks like after this residency, and looking at jobs and things like that. And that's when Houston decided maybe we want a full-time dietitian. So I ended up staying with them. I ended my residency a little bit early because they offered me a job and said, "Hey, why don't you come work with us?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I can't really say no to that." So I was with Houston for another couple of years. And then I loved the professional sports. I ended up just, I never thought I would, but I missed home. So Michigan is home. And so kind of just keeping my eyes and ears open if an opportunity happened to present itself. I was friends with the dietitian that was here at Sporting Kansas City. She was making a transition. She kind of like, I was aware of that transition, and I kind of let her know. I was like, hey, I'm interested in the position. It gets me halfway closer to home, about 12 hours versus 22. So I said, just let me know if the position opens up, if there's going to be a posting or she's like, yeah, I'll put your name in with my supervisor. And I went through the whole interview process. It was a little bit longer of a process by the time that she left, and then I got in. It was like 3 or 4 months, but honestly, it was the networking piece and knowing people within the club and being able to kind of just hop on that opportunity sooner rather than later.
Right on. Well, that's great. Yeah, I've got a couple friends with Houston Dynamo. Were you dealing with the Dash also, or just the Dynamo?
Nope, just the Dynamo. I worked with
Okay.
their first team, second team a little bit. The second team did have like their own part-time dietitian, but I was always there as like a kind of like a reference. But then I also worked with the academy.
Okay, because I was going to dive into like differences between male and female athletes and in terms of nutritional needs, but we can jump into that later. How about we dive into professional soccer nutritional dietetic needs of the
Mm-hmm.
athlete? Like what understanding? Okay, they've already established the fundamental foundation, like you spoke of moments ago. But what is it that you want to try and drive in terms of frequency and selection and so on? Can you give me an idea?
Yeah. So we periodize nutrition based on the training week. So obviously, like we know that we need to eat protein and that we need a little bit of starch on our plate and we need some color, throw some fruits and vegetables in. But the portion sizes of that I adjust, or I recommend adjusting based on what our training session looks like. And I can't go through and make all of their plates for them, but I can give them examples of what plates look like. And then our kitchen staff will also adjust what's offered. So if it's a higher training day, we're going to give more carb options, so they're more likely to put carbs on their plates. So throughout the course of the week, it might be heavier on the carbs. So as we approach like a match day -1, just to be able to really load those carbs up because they're going to need them the following day. or if it's a heavier training day. If we're kind of backing off and focusing on recovery, maybe it's a little bit less carbohydrates, obviously still there, but we mix in some vegetables in there too. So we have like a starch vegetable mix to kind of throw more veggies in, and hopefully they get some of those nutrients. And my kitchen staff will also make like antioxidant juices and things like that to focus on certain times where we're putting more of an importance on recovery.
Collagen, turmeric, the other
Mm-hmm.
kind of spices, so to speak, throwing into their smoothies or whatever, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. So they get smoothies every day. Um, and there's always, I mean, they get their choice of flavors, but collagen and creatine are always in there.
And always just for recovery or all through the week, no matter
All
what.
through the week, no matter what.
And so, do you deal with what their body mass or body weight is, and you give them a certain amount based on that, or do you get specific with that?
I do based on the athlete. So for me to do that with 30 athletes is a little overwhelming.
Right?
However, yeah. So some of my athletes are doing well. We do body composition analysis. We do a DEXA scan. I do ISAC testing on the guys. So I have a couple different reference points of where they're at, how changes are happening over the course of the season. If I see that there is a change that is unfavorable, or if an athlete comes to me wanting more help, wanting more assistance, then we will work one-on-one. So for example, over the off season, I had an athlete that needed to put on muscle mass. Like smaller athlete, he's like, I don't know what I need to do, but I need to figure out how to get bigger. Well, first of all, his body type isn't exactly made to put on mass like that, but we did what we could. So he was tracking all of his meals. Like I don't ask all of my athletes to track everything they eat, but in that sense, we were tracking everything. He's got a certain calorie amount that he's got to hit, and we focus on those aspects for him specifically, and that led him to be able to gain 5 pounds of muscle mass over the off season, which was a huge win for us in that regard. And I've got other athletes that are like, hey, I actually just want to like really dial in what I'm eating. A few national team candidates are on our team. So we've got guys that are like, this is really important to me to just be in the best shape possible. So, sometimes it's weight gain, sometimes it's weight loss, sometimes it's, I just want to make sure I'm doing all the right stuff. And those are the athletes, if they come to me, I will put a little bit more time and energy into for macro tracking or meal planning with them or having specific recommendations. Other athletes, it's more of a broad overview because some of them have been doing this so long. A lot of them know the basics, know what they need to do, and then my job with them is just to identify proper supplementation and going over their playing style, their lab work, and figuring out what supplementation is going to help them the best.
When it comes to food tracking,
Mm-hmm.
great answer, by the way. But when it comes to food tracking, how many are on the roster that actually have like apps or some means of tracking it when they're not at the stadium, when they're at home and so on? Like how much information do you receive to be as fine-tuned as possible?
Mm-hmm. So the way that I have it set up is if they're very serious about tracking their food and they want my help, they use my app. I mean, it's not my app per se, but it's an app where I send them a link to be able to sign up. I can see what they're doing on the back end, and I can also adjust their macros from my end and give them notes. So I have probably at this point, let's see, probably about 5 athletes that are really, into it and really focused on that and using that. And then, each athlete is different. I have athletes that'll type it in. I'll have athletes that'll like just take a picture of it. But any way that it's input into that app, I'm at least getting feedback to be able to help them a little bit more.
Very cool. And when it comes to like peak performance, what markers are you looking for? Like, how do you know that the plan that you've devised, like what means of assessment? I guess that's what I'm kind of geared at, because it's kind of easy in the weight room or on the pitch
Yep.
that if we can see recovery time, if we can see PRs, we can use force plates and so on. But when it comes to fueling
Hmm.
and the diet, it's got to be tricky.
Yeah. I use some of those same metrics that we would use on the field or in the weight room. So if we're doing counter movement jump and I know that a guy is consistently flagging as, like a high fatigue flag, but then I implement a little bit of extra recovery, like I don't know if it's my stuff that's working. I don't know if he's doing something different recovery wise, but whatever it is, he's recovering if he's gets taken off that fatigue flag list. If they are feeling gassed on the pitch, if their high speed running goes, numbers go down, or if their total distance covered something changes and there's like a major change in that, I know that maybe we need to address it with nutrition. There's not necessarily a surefire way to say, yes, that's nutrition related. However, there's probably always a way that I can address any issue to optimize that. Or even ask questions like, are you doing X, Y, and Z? Okay, if you are, then it's probably not a nutrition thing. However, if you're not, like maybe we try these things. It's not going to hurt. So that's how I do it. I do use some of those same metrics that we use on the pitch and in the weight room, but then also the body composition data that I use. It's more of a relative longitudinal thing. I don't necessarily have a set point that the athletes need to be at. I don't really believe that there is a set point that you can, kind of put athletes into a bubble that where they need to be especially based on position and body type, but more of just like a relative comparison. So if the athlete managed to, gain muscle mass, well, he's probably doing something right. If the athlete is losing muscle mass, well, we need to look at his nutrition and his gym program combined to see what we can do to make that better. So a lot of it is I don't necessarily have my own metrics. I'm collaborating with a lot of other team members, whether it be performance or even medical, because then we also look at the injury recovery or the resulting injuries that we have. So if somebody's more prone to injury, then I'm wanting to make sure that they're not under fueling. And then we assess that and go forward.
So some of the assessments could be, but I'm imagining you don't get this in depth or personal, but blood tests, urine analysis, stool samples, like is that part of the game here or
Yep.
it is?
Yeah. So every athlete will get their blood tested at least twice a season. So when they in preseason, they'll get it tested, or when they come to us, if that's in the first transfer window, and then in the summer again. Or if they do come to us in the summer transfer window, they will only get the one blood test. But I have access to be able to see all their labs come back, and that's actually how I build their supplement packs.
Okay.
So they each have individual vitamin packs that they're, with their name and number, their native language on it. And every month they might change based on what the athlete needs. But it's driven by those lab results of what I start with and whether they need extra iron, extra vitamin D. If we're looking at more inflammatory type things that are coming up where we need to throw in turmeric or tart cherry or something like that into their daily routine. Otherwise, I don't do a full urine analysis, but on match day -2, I do urine specific gravity testing on all of the guys for hydration status.
What does that mean? Urine specific gravity testing.
So basically, it means that I'm testing how many particles or what the urine consists of. So what you want it to be is you want your urine to be diluted almost to the point of water. So I use my reference range is distilled water. So I always I have a a little pen. It looks like a little pen. It's a digital device where I'll zero it out using distilled water. And then I'll compare that zeroed score to whatever their urine is. A higher score means more particulates in the urine. It's more concentrated, and that would be a higher or more dehydrated athlete.
Yeah, more waste products, more toxicity potentially. Yeah. So we have kind of like the P color chart in the restroom here for our clients and so on. So you're just a little bit more fancy, obviously, but that's actually really quite cool. And okay, you mentioned iron and vitamin D. Those are kind of like the top things, it seems, in today's culture that have the highest degree of deficiency, if that's the proper way of saying it. What other things that do you look for in regards to their iron level, their vitamin D? I mean, are you looking at, well, you said inflammation markers. So are you going to cut down on their carbs or simple sugars when you see inflammation? Or, I mean, what do you do?
I don't necessarily see like markers like high enough to be like, oh my gosh, we need to like revamp your entire, diet. They pretty much, my guys that I work with, at least right now, they're pretty good about the types of foods that they eat and wanting to put whole foods in their body. And they eat breakfast and lunch with us at the facility. And we're providing everything that we can to be as much whole food driven as possible. So, I mean, 2/3 of their meals, they don't really have a chance to put too much junk into their body. But otherwise, it's more of like, okay, can we address other things like what has your inflammation level so high? Like we look at the whole being. Like, okay, you just came off of off season. What did you do in your off season that was different because this lab changed from last summer to now? So what happened? And we have conversations like that. I don't want to make an intervention that I don't necessarily need to make, that we can figure out from lifestyle factors. So it's those conversations that kind of start off with those inflammation markers. If there's an issue, I typically don't have a ton of issue with those. It's definitely more of the deficiency of vitamin D, or making sure that our iron is at a good level, especially if we're going to go to altitude at all.
We're just going to take a quick pause from this conversation to acknowledge our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. The Zelos Podcast is sponsored by Kinetic IQ, where intelligence meets motion. Kinetic IQ brings a biomechanics lab into the palm of your hand, letting you measure movement anytime, anywhere with just an iPad or iPhone. No wearables required. I've been using Kinetic IQ in my own practice, and whether you're screening athletes, optimizing performance, or guiding return to play, it helps practitioners like us save time, capture more objective data, and make instant actionable decisions. So to learn more about how Kinetic IQ is shaping the future of intelligent movement, visit kinetikiq.com. That's KINETIKIQ.com. At the forefront of metabolic elite is Jim Lavelle, internationally recognized clinical pharmacist, a chief science officer at Lifetime, and the co-chair for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. He's got over 4 decades of experience and has guided Olympic athletes, professional teams, and leading health institutions. You know what makes Metabolic Elite different is their commitment to real results. Like Lipitab, their proprietary solid-state liposomal delivery system. It's a chewable format which enhances absorption like nutrients like BPC 157 and synapses. They're delivered more efficiently in the body, supporting recovery, focus, cognitive health. Their formulas go beyond the basics, solving performance health challenges at the system level. Every product is tested for quality, it's backed by research, it's trusted by athletes and clinicians alike. And you can get 10% off all of Metabolic Elite products by entering the coupon code ZELOS, ZELOS. Yeah, I can see if you're dealing with maybe second team and academy athletes that you're probably going to have a lot more, I won't say work on your hands, but a lot more educational process, especially for the younger players, right? But for the first team, it's just the fine tuning.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh, Top things that the typical athlete should have in their diet. And I'm
Hmm.
not talking macro like protein, carbs, fats, and so on, but like what are the this is an easy, low hanging fruit, so to speak, that should be in everyone's.
Yeah. Honestly, creatine is the easiest one. Like adding creatine, like there's no reason that everybody shouldn't be taking creatine. I have had one athlete that had a negative reaction, just based on the concept of it kind of pulling water into the muscle, and he felt like his legs really did feel swollen, and it was kind of uncomfortable, and it was an issue. That's the only thing I've ever had happen. And
Hmm.
so yeah, he just didn't take creatine, and everything was fine. But um, no, I mean every athlete can benefit from it, whether it be from a muscle growth perspective, um, an injury recovery perspective. But there's no protocol that I have where I don't recommend creatine. Um, it's in my concussion protocol because we have information on the ways that it helps the brain as well. So concussion protocol, it's just going to be a little bit higher. So creatine is definitely number one. Um, I think just this is definitely broad, but just making sure that you're getting it, like you're having, like I like to put it as 3 meals and 2 snacks a day. Like some athletes like aren't eating enough, and some of them don't realize how much they need to eat. So when I talk to these athletes, and they've got the portions down, right, like when they eat meals, but then they don't realize, like, oh, I should probably be adding snacks because I'm missing out on 500 calories in my day that I actually need. And it's when I have those conversations and when I do work with those athletes one on one that they realize that there's more to it than just what we provide them at the facility. And
And
so,
sorry, but at the
no, go ahead.
facility, do you have a commercial kitchen there, or do you have it offsite that you've got somebody doing, or are you doing a lot of the meal prep, cooking, and so on? Like, how big is the staff? Are we talking for that?
Yeah, so we have a full kitchen staff. Now, this is very different than what I had in Houston. So I'll explain the differences.
Please.
And this is different across the league too. So I've been fortunate to experience two different situations, but even there are even more different variations as the league grows and it becomes the facilities change and we're upgrading and all those kinds of things. So currently, our facility has a full commercial kitchen. We have a head chef, a sous chef, and cooks and wait staff. So we probably have, I don't even know. I am kind of adjacent to the kitchen staff, but our head chef manages all of that. So she manages all of those employees as far as scheduling, hiring, all that good stuff. I am just there to I give her a template or layout of what the training loads look like and tell her kind of what I want, what types of foods I want on the menu. She comes back, gives me a menu, and I review it and say, yep, A-okay, check it off. So we are giving the guys like fresh, full breakfast and lunch every day. And that's coming straight from our kitchen, like, 100 feet away from where we serve it. In Houston, it was very different. We had a players lounge. There was no actual kitchen. So I had a chef that would come in for breakfast and lunch, cook in his own commercial kitchen and bring it over. So a little less flexibility there because what we had is what we had. Then you also have the transportation time and then how long the food sits and all that kind of stuff. But that's the best that we could do in this situation because it was just set up in the players lounge.
So on the roster, I mean, you've got a guy from Norway, Spain, Angola, Serbia, England. Obviously, you've got a whole bunch of people from the U.S., but Ghana. Uh, I know there's another one. But anyway, the point being is that international players come in with their favorite dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Just curious, how do you fold that in? Like, how much of an international flair can you accommodate, or are you just Americanizing their diets in a way? And not in a bad way. I'm not like
No,
you're
no, I
doing
understand.
Big Macs. So,
yeah. Different way to Americanize. Our staff in the kitchen does a really good job of trying to give us different cuisines and trying to be as authentic as possible. So we also have in the past, the guys will tell us maybe um, their favorite food or their favorite dish from their own culture, and we'll try to incorporate that, once or twice throughout the season, just to give them a little bit of what they're used to. And so, yes, on the day to day, I would say that our meals are pretty, I guess, Americanized. However, we do try to throw in a little bit of the cultural stuff, because it's more fun that way too. Even like
yeah.
the even us as Americans in that setting, we like to taste a few things different, and it's really cool when the guys are like, "Oh my gosh, like this is something that like I would eat all the time," or if they tell us something, or a lot of times, sometimes guys will even like bring in things that they want to introduce to us or they want us to try. So that's fun too.
So I've had a couple of nutritionists and dietitians on previous episodes, and they've shared some great recipes in the past. Easy to reach, kind of quick snacks for the players, whether it was like protein balls or rice bowls, banana bread. Those are the ones that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
What can you share like a recipe or something for me if you don't mind? Because I love being in the kitchen myself. I put myself through school in restaurants, so
Yeah.
and then I procrastinated in the weight room. So not that we have the similar paths, but we've got a couple things in common, I guess. But what
Yeah,
would be a good
absolutely.
recipe?
So let's see. So we do have this was kind of like a signature. This is something that was before I came in. But one of the signature things is like they're called sporting protein balls. They're something that the guys have been able to have like in like post game, or as a snack here and there. And then one of the also like this is a little less grab and go, but something that our staff does really well is sweet potato mac and cheese.
Oh, tell me about that one. Okay, let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So um, it just is macaroni, onion, vegetable oil. You have your sweet potatoes, milk, cheese. You use cheddar cheese and ricotta cheese. So all you're doing is cooking up your macaroni like you normally would, and then mix in your sweet potato. You're dicing your sweet potatoes. Add in milk and a little bit of mustard to that, and you're just cooking that until it's nice and tender.
Mm.
And then you take that off the heat. You're gonna puree the sweet potato and milk mixture, um, and then you're going to toss the macaroni with the cheese. You're going to then put it all together, and you're going to bake it.
Oh man, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh, all right, nice. Okay, the protein balls that I typically make that people are craving here, and the staff they wipe through them like it's so fast I can't keep up with them. But it's organic rolled oats. I put some chia seeds in there. We throw in raisins and cranberry, honey, peanut butter, a little vanilla, sprinkling of cinnamon, and then just let that the oats soak up the moisture of the peanut butter and the honey, and make balls out of them, and then throw them in the freezer or the fridge. I know some people do it with chocolate chips. Is that basically
Yep.
the recipe for you too?
Yeah. Ours is oats. We do unsweetened coconut, flaxseed, chocolate chips, some kind of nut butter, peanut, almond, sunflower butter, honey, vanilla, a little bit of cocoa,
Oh,
and
vanilla
coconut
too,
oil.
yeah. Whoa, coconut oil
Hmm.
and coconut flakes.
Yeah.
Dang,
But the taste of coconut really isn't like too.
it's not
It's not too
overpowering.
much. No, no.
All right.
It gives it a good like between the coconut and the chocolate. There's a good flavor there.
Okay, and then for you, like your power food, Like, what is your go-to power food? If whether it's a
Ooh.
recipe or just like
Hmm.
straight off the tree of banana, whatever. What is it?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I am leaning more and more into tart cherries these days, or and like cherry
What
juice.
is it with that? Tell me, like, why it hasn't exploded on the scene in the last like 5 years. Everything is tart cherry
Yeah,
everywhere I look.
yeah. There's just more research to show, and also more like research done on the protocols of how to use it in recovery.
I
And
just rub it on my skin, and it
yeah,
seems to just yeah no okay you're no.
I mean, hey, it
Tell me
might work.
more.
Yeah, yeah. I also have a lot of individuals that will use it for sleep. So I don't know what it is, but there's the antioxidants and the ingredients in there. It helps just to kind of calm everything down, whether it's inflammation and recovery, or like I said, I'm giving it to guys for sleep. Yes, there are some formulations that have like melatonin included. Um, or they have like some other ingredients as well. But I've had people that just take the tart cherry and they swear by it. Like they just drink a tart cherry juice before bed, and that helps.
And yet you'll get it in your morning smoothie too. You'll throw it in there in the middle of the day when you don't want to doze off. So there's
Yeah.
so many healing benefits to it that
Yes.
it's probably the chameleon when it comes to the best food out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has you got to look at the dosage too. So it depends on how much you're giving yourself, and is it, ideally you can have something with those ingredients in it, leading up to a few days leading up to the match and then afterwards. And it just that's what when you get the most benefit is actually having it more often. It's not necessarily just like a reactionary, like, oh, I'm going to need to recover, I'm going to have this cherry juice. But the more that you can kind of incorporate that into the day to day, it does better for you.
Right on. Okay. Are you ready to go on a hot seat and do some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. Okay. Uh, I'm just going to throw stuff at you. You give me what comes to mind. Carbs or protein? What gets misunderstood more?
Carbs.
Pre-game meal or post-game recovery? Which matters more?
Post game.
Most underrated recovery tool?
Just food in general.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Hydration or electrolytes? Which do athletes mess up more?
Hydration.
Supplements, helpful or overused?
Overused.
Dang. Yeah, whole food, right? Go
Hmm.
whole food. I got you. One food every athlete should eat more of. And don't say tart cherry because that'd be cheating. That'd be
Yeah,
out there.
I know exactly. Um, hmm, one food. This is a this is a real hot seat question. Let's see.
Yeah, it is.
Um, I think more athletes should eat any type of nut.
I was hoping you were going to say avocado, but nuts are cool. Okay. Biggest nutrition myth in sports right now.
Mm. I've been fighting the battle of protein needs to be in everything, and that protein is that we constantly need protein. So that's the big one.
Fuel for performance or fuel for body composition? Which wins?
Ooh, performance all the way.
Good. If an athlete only fixes one habit, what should it be?
Timing and quantity of food.
Nice. And one word that defines elite fueling.
Optimizing.
Brilliant. There you go. There's my 10 rapid fire questions. You blazed through that no problem. Oh, right on, Hannah.
Awesome.
So fun. Okay. Do you have any like cookbooks or articles, journal entries, research? Like how can people follow you a little bit more? And social media easily enough, you can
Yeah.
shout that out too.
Yeah. So on social media, it's just Hannah Sports RD on Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, whatever. Just Hannah Sports RD. Otherwise, I A lot of what I do is in-person stuff. So I do presentations. I do a lot of that. So that I'm more kind of boots on the ground versus like research and that kind of thing. But every once in a while, I'll throw up articles or blog posts or, things that I do on social. So that's the best place to find
Nice.
things.
And are you presenting at any conferences coming up?
Not right now. The conferences that are coming up for like sports nutrition, things like that are mostly in our busy time. So it's kind of like got to pick and choose. Last year I went to our conference in May, so I've got to kind of take a step back and be with the team this year. So.
And what resource do you use to keep up with sports nutrition?
Yeah, so I use our ASPDA is a collegiate and professional or sports nutrition group, and they do a really good job of sending out like monthly research updates. So we have a group in there that'll kind of filter through the research, figure out, maybe what are good things that we need to read. So somebody's already picked out the research that I need to read and they just send it over. There's a lot of content there, so I'll pick and choose and keep up with that. But having a group like that to kind of guide me is one thing, and then just following other researchers and following other practitioners on social media because they are great resources.
Right on. And just kind of side question, I guess, like artificial intelligence, are you tapping into that in a way to benefit the team and players and what you're doing with them at all?
Yeah,
Or are we not there yet?
we're there a little bit, but at the very like basics. So like, for example, if I don't want to take the time, it's more of a time saver, really. It's things that I could do, but like, for example, if I want to look at the group data as a whole of something, and I can just plug in numbers into an AI and say, show me this relationship or that relationship, that's kind of the things that I would use it for. Or, sometimes I have worked with, this is kind of, athletes or even private practice clients, they will like give me a list of the groceries that they have. And if I give that to an AI program, it can tell me like what meals can we build out of that.
Oh, nice.
So those are a few of the things that, I could probably do it with my brain, but there's other bigger things that I need to be working on. So.
No, time efficiency is huge. Okay, last question before we say goodbye here. We got World Cup soccer coming.
Yeah.
And that means you get 2 weeks at least, right? Is it 2 or 3? I think it might be 3 weeks, right? That the MLS takes a break?
18 days.
Holy cow. Where are you going? Caribbean? Back to Michigan?
I wish.
Or do you have to stay?
I am going to go back home to Michigan for a week. I have, she'll be 2 in June, a 2-year-old daughter, and it's her birthday right around May, June time. So we're going to go back to Michigan, do a birthday party for her. And then I'm going to come back to Kansas City and maybe enjoy the city for a couple weeks.
Hey,
so.
Excellent. Well, I enjoyed it last summer at a conference, and I hope you do the same. But this has been fantastic. Honestly, I love asking experts in the field because I get to learn from you, and this is no exception. So thank you so much for taking time out. This has been great.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And boom, mic drop right there for Hannah. That was excellent. I want to thank her and Sporting KC for letting this happen. I'm looking forward to the World Cup, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having our paths cross sometime in the near future. Who knows? Maybe it's the Perform Better Summits, Chicago, Long Beach, Providence, Rhode Island, June, July, and August, respectively, or maybe the NSCA National Conference. Join me there in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the middle of July. Until next week, we're going to hear from our sponsors just one more time, and then go out there and make it a great week. Remember to check out metabolicelite.co. Check out all the products they have on their website. Synapsin Pro is something I've been using to help stay focused without having to over-caffeinate myself. It keeps me in the zone so I can just really hone in on the things I need to achieve without feeling like, man, I gotta reach for an energy drink every 5 minutes. Metabolicelite.co. And don't forget, Kinetic IQ. They've got markerless motion capture for morons like me. I can use their product with my iPhone or my iPad. I can look at posture analysis, movement analysis of any exercise, gait analysis. It gives me everything I could possibly want when tracking people's movements. So, check out kineticiq.com.